All right. That is not the right intro card. I pressed the wrong button. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 236 of the Fight Library. Coming at you live this time. Ignore that last card. I forgot to take it out. Anyways. So, we are live on YouTube. And we are live on TikTok. So, if you see me looking that way, hey, TikTok, what's up? So, welcome. If you're new to the show, my name is Blaine Henry. I'm your host, and I will be talking about UFC 272, Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal, and also we'll talk about Magomed Ankalaev versus Thiago Santos, which is coming up. Before we get into this episode, please drop a sub, follow, review. It's great for the channel. Drop a comment. Let me know what you thought. Also, follow me on Twitter, Blaine Henry TFL. That's where I'm at mostly. And that's where I do most of my chatting with everybody about, fights, because that's what I do. I talk about fights. So, if you really like the show and you really want to support me, you know what you can do? Patreon. $5 a month. You will be able to get on some old Patreon stuff and get new content every single Monday about fights, obviously. Something just for the fans. And it's $5 a month. And you get 4 pieces of content a month, plus all the backlog and stuff. Got some really cool stuff on there, like Joe Louis beating Max Schmeling in the rematch, kind of a history episode, and it's really fun. So I hope you all enjoy this, and let's go ahead and dive on in and start talking about UFC 272. That's what we're going to talk about first, right? Because that's what happened this weekend. Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal. Actually, the card, low-key, stunk. I mean, it wasn't that good of a card, but it is what it is. So we're going to start at the top, Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal, because that's what everybody wants to see. We come into this fight, it's a grudge match, and I'm not going to lie to you guys when I tell you all that I was incredibly hyped from this promo of this card, right? I felt like the card, the friends, now enemies, kind of really sold me on this. And I was like, okay, I can get behind this. And, all in all, I took Colby Covington to win this fight. If you got the pre-fight podcast, then you would know what I said. So, I don't know. Like, the fight, it was an interesting fight, but I took Colby Covington in this fight for sure, because I felt like he was going to be the guy just doing whatever he wanted. So he showed up and did his thing. It was really interesting though, because early in the fight we saw him get in on the takedown, and he got in on an eye poke, and we saw Jorge Masvidal, he was complaining about the eye poke because, oh no, this hurts my eyes, which, I mean, that's a foul. But something we saw Jorge Masvidal do in this fight that was pretty interesting. Hey Jazz, on TikTok, Jazz just said hi. Anyways, if you're tuning in for the first time, y'all go ahead, drop some questions and I'll talk about them live. We're talking about UFC 272 right now. Masvidal, he let the ref know on every single foul that Colby Covington did. If you think about that, that's brilliant. Okay, these refs, they were bad all night. You had the glove pull from Tim Elliott on Tagir Ulanbekov. So he wants to let them know, hey, guys, hold up a second. We don't want cheating. So he did that, and then there was the strikes to the back of the head early in the first that Colby. I'm going to rewind for a second. So he gets in on the eye poke, but the ref Herb doesn't stop the fight, so he lets Colby continue with the position, and he gets the takedown. He gets his hands locked behind the knees, fights real hard for the position, and eventually he gets the takedown. Right, so we get to the ground off an eye poke, and it's like, okay, but can Colby do that? Not on the eye poke, right? So we want to see what happens if he can't poke him in the eye. I mean, let's be honest. And he actually did a good job for the rest of the fight. Okay, so we get to the ground, and Colby, he doesn't really have great ground and pound. He did land some really good elbows, but it wasn't like amazing Habib ground and pound type stuff. So, I kind of was like, that's okay, but at the same time, that's what Colby does. The dude hasn't had a finish since 2016. Think about that for a second. Anyway, so another I mentioned it, back of the head. Jorge Masvidal was getting punched in the back of the head, and the ref warned Colby Covington about punches to the back of the head. Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't punch him in the back of the head. And it's while he's in the middle of the ground and pound. So what does Masvidal do? He's getting his head turned, so he turns his head away from the punches, letting Colby hit him in the back of the head. Really a smart move from Jorge Masvidal, but that's about the only smart thing. That and the strike, that the left hook that would catch Colby later in round 4. So pretty much the story of the whole fight was Colby Covington kind of just doing his thing. I'm getting the fight to the ground. I'm striking in. He really does parry with his jab. The one thing I don't like that Colby Covington does is he doesn't move his head, and we saw that with Masvidal in the Masvidal fight. We really saw it in the Usman fight, which is something I called that he needed ahead of that Usman fight, and he didn't really get it. So we're watching Colby Covington. He doesn't move his head. He doesn't. He did a little bit more in this fight, but for the most part, he did not. He does not move his head, and that's what got him caught in the 4th round. So we had Colby Covington come in the 4th round, and that left hook that he got hurt, but then Masvidal just lets him off. He kind of has a Nate Diaz pointing moment there. It was really weird. But hey, it is what it is. It was a good performance from Colby Covington. I don't know. I enjoyed the fight from a simple standpoint of Colby Covington kind of doing his thing, and that's what I felt like we got there. And I think that going in the future, he needs to work on his ground and pound and finishing abilities. Because like I said, he hasn't had a finish since 2016. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next fight. Rafael Dos Anjos versus Renato Moicano was supposed to be against Rafael Fiziev and Dos Anjos, but we didn't get that. Instead, we got Moicano coming in on like 7 days' notice or something like that. That was a rough one for Moicano. I mean, the dude, Moicano's a good fighter. He's not elite, though, if you want to be honest. He's got a win over Jai Herbert and Alexander Hernandez. Fiziev took him apart, knocked him out in round 1. Damir Hasdovic beat him. But then you got like the 2 losses to Korean Zombie and Aldo. It's really weird he got a win over Calvin Kattar, though. So I don't know how to feel about Moicano. He did take this fight short notice, like we mentioned. So you got to kind of give him some of the benefit of the doubt, right? I don't know, though. I don't know if I can do that. It was kind of a weak performance on his part. He didn't really come out and prove himself. And it was a short notice fight, sure, and he had to cut a lot of weight. But Dos Anjos was just really good. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are like, Dos Anjos is so fun to watch. He's so good. He's such a fun fighter to watch. Rafael Dos Anjos is a great fighter. But if you go back and watch him fight Michael Chiesa, Leon Edwards, Usman, Covington, I mean, the dude's fought the great fighters. He's good, but he's not amazing. He was the former champ. He's got losses out the wazoo, though, to, those that I mentioned earlier, Tony Ferguson, Eddie Alvarez. Has lost to Khabib, Gleison Tibau, Clay Guida, Jeremy Stevens. So the man has some tough fights that he's taken, and he's lost with them. What does Dos Anjos do from here? I mean, he's 37, man. He doesn't have a lot longer. Let's be honest. Renato Moicano does not have much time left in the tank at 37, especially at lightweight. So what's he do next? I don't know. I mean, the Fiziev fight's a good fight, but that's a good fight for Fiziev to win. I don't get it. It's not going to work for him. Moving on with the card. Bryce Mitchell and Edson Barboza. What are my honest opinions on YouTubers boxing? That's right, man. Said that on TikTok. So I actually like Jake Paul boxing. It's hilarious. Like, he's got punching power. We saw him knock out Tyron Woodley. But a lot of these YouTube boxers are just trying to cash in on what Logan Paul and KSI started. Jake Paul has taken it to a new level, for sure. But, you know, it's YouTubers boxing. They're not really that good. Yeah. Jake Paul's really the only one to watch, honestly. He actually fights in entertaining fights. And I say entertaining, I mean like fights that I can get behind and be excited about. That's what he does. But as far as them being legitimate boxers, never. They'll never be legitimate boxers. Anyways, you say Jake Paul could compete and actually fight. People say KSI could, but I don't know. You know, I thought I gave Jake Paul a decent shot at beating Tommy Fury. That's right, man, from TikTok again. Go follow him. I gave him a decent shot against Tommy Fury, but we got to remember Jake Paul's 4-0 and he hasn't fought a boxer with a actual record yet. He's had the Gibb fight, then you had was it Ben Askren was second? Yeah, Ben Askren, then you had Woodley back to back. That's MMA fighters in boxing. KSI cannot. The dude can't box. I really hope they make Jake Paul and KSI. That would be actually an entertaining lead up to a fight, and Jake Paul would flatline KSI. It wouldn't even be close. I'm going to circle back for a minute, but if you have any more questions about YouTube boxing, I'll get to them in between the two cards. I want to kind of get through the rest of this. Bryce Mitchell and Edson Barboza. Mitchell came in and just dominated Edson. He even knocked him down. Barboza's just washed, man. That was a 145 fight. Yeah. Bryce Mitchell's good, man. He has just 15-0, hadn't fought in a while, so he kind of was rusty, you could tell. But since coming in the UFC, he's got wins over Barboza, Andre Fili, Charles Rosa's a good win, Matt Sales, decent, Bobby Moffitt's a good win, and obviously the Tyler Diamond on Ultimate Fighter, right? So Bryce has got another. Edson Barboza is kind of like the guy that's going to get you to the next level. He'll get you up and into the next level of fighting. And Bryce Mitchell's about to get that. Who can he fight next? Who knows? I mean, the guy hadn't fought since 2020. It's been almost 2 years. So, yeah. Kevin Holland and Alex Oliveira. That was a decent fight, actually. Holland, first fight at 170 pounds. He used to fight at 185. Just a little too small for the weight class. And we saw with this, he was not a good wrestler still, right? He was actually kind of a trash wrestler, and Oliveira managed to get the fight to the ground at the end of the first. He was reserved, Oliveira was, and he did his thing. But at the same time, Holland came out and cracked him early in the third round, or the second round, and got the finish. It was really good seeing Greg Hardy get absolutely flatlined. That was pretty cool. I like seeing that. Hardy's not a good fighter at all. I mean, he's got power in his hands because he's a big guy. That's about it. But he's not amazing. If we're being honest. Dude's not good at all. But hey, who am I to judge? The dude got in there and fought. He's 7-5 now, though. Like, I'm going to go pull up his record real quick. Last 3 fights have been losses. Tai Tuivasa was a banger of a knockout. Marcin Tybura. Like, the dude's just not ready for the UFC, and we've seen that. The Crowder illegal knee. The inhaler with Ben Sassoli. Couldn't stand in there with Volkov, obviously. Then he got 2 wins against DeCastro and Maurice Green, but those guys are bangers, so that's the kind of fights he can win. But if there's anybody that can actually wrestle, I mean, he's not going to be in the UFC much longer. If he were to fight Alexei Oleinik like he was supposed to, it would have been over quicker. Who else was on there? Jalen Turner and Jamie Malarkey. It was a great fight. Jalen Turner's a banger. The dude's really a talented fighter. I'm going to watch more of him going in the future because he's got some good skills for sure. The guy's good. Marina Rodriguez versus Zhao Jinyan. It was a really good women's fight. I pinpointed this one early with Tom on the last podcast episode talking about this fight because those 2 women are very, very good on the feet. And that's what I like seeing from a fighter is just the ability to make good decisions on the feet. Early on, we saw Rodriguez not making good decisions. She was throwing looping punches, and Yan was picking her apart. Zhao Jinyan is a Sanda background fighter. Marina Rodriguez is a Muay Thai background fighter. So these two fighters, they're very much, they're very good fighters. And they're 115, which is a deep division for women's. So I assume Carlos Esparza is getting the next shot at Rose Namajunas. And this person, the winner of this, which was Marina Rodriguez, if she gets the title shot, she might fight again. Who knows? She might, go ahead and face Joanna and have a number one contender fight. And let's go, right? I like that idea too. So yeah, good fight. If you haven't watched that one, it's real good. Third round was cool. I thought I had Yan winning it, but they gave it to Marina. But the third round was cool because Marina catches her and she pumps her fist in the air. And then Zhao Jinyan's like, oh, we're going to talk trash. And she starts pumping her fist in the air and pop, pop. And then pumps her fist in the air because Marina's rocked. It was actually a really cool moment. I enjoyed that. Nick Negromanov versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. Just Nzechukwu's not good. He's not a good fighter. Marina Moroz, Ukrainian fighter. It was good seeing a Ukrainian get the win. Happy about that. Umar Nurmagomedov's a beast. Just dominated Brian Kelleher. That was awesome. But if you haven't seen the video of Khabib being mad at Tagir Ulanbekov for getting just run over by Tim Elliott, it was weird. Now, Tim Elliott is an interesting fighter because he's really awkward on the feet. He's got these looping, like he leans weird. Yeah, I don't get it, but, Elliott, he ended up, wrestling Ulanbekov in this fight, and Khabib was in the corner. No. I don't speak Russian, so I don't know exactly what he was saying, but I got to imagine he's like, come on, are you serious? You got to actually wrestle. You can't just sit here and, I don't know, bro. It was hilarious, Khabib, the video afterwards. It was so funny. Go look it up. It's one you don't want to miss because it's so funny. I loved it. So, yeah, that's about it on that card. Yeah, so like I said, we're going to do 2 back-to-back. Instead of doing a 2 podcasts a week, I'm going to condense these into 1. Longer episodes, more stuff. TikTok is the first time I'm streaming live. I hope you all are enjoying this because I'm having actually a pretty good time here. I've got a couple questions come in. So next weekend, we've got Thiago Santos versus Magomed Ankalaev, which is a really fun fight. Ankalaev is my guy in the 205. That's not Yuri Prochazka. I feel like Yuri Prochazka is going to be the next big thing in that division. He's fighting Glover for the title, so he's not really the next big thing. He's already good. But Ankalaev is on a tear. You had the Ian Kutlaba saga, which took up too much of his time. Nikita Krylov, and then he beat Volkan Ozdemir pretty badly. So now he's fighting a Thiago Santos who's more reserved, right? We saw that against Rakic and John Jones. He kind of went crazy against Glover. But and then we saw him do that with Johnny Walker. I had Johnny winning that fight, actually. But Glover got the win. So, yep, no harm, no foul, right? So he's taking on Magomed Ankalaev. And one thing I do know the UFC likes to do, like to put in contenders that should be moving up for the title. Specifically, in this case, Magomed Ankalaev, right? He should be making his way towards a title fight, which him versus Yuri Prochazka is going to be a really good fight. If Yuri beats Glover, that is. We don't know what his wrestling's like. So Santos and Ankalaev, that's going to be a really fun fight. It's really down to can Santos pull the trigger because he looked like he couldn't pull the trigger last time. Sorry, I got to get a sip. My throat's a little parched. Anyways, he couldn't get a little Powerade, guys. Come on. He couldn't really get a read on Johnny because Johnny's so long. And that was really what gave him trouble there. And you saw him against Glover. He went ham in the first quarter. Listen to me, football talk. The first round. And then Glover just comes back and old man strengthens him to death. It was rough, right? And I feel like Ankalaev's a really good striker for sure. But his wrestling is underrated, and we're going to see that in this fight. If I'm fighting Thiago Santos as Magomed Ankalaev, I know I'm the bigger guy, even though Santos is absolutely jacked. But Thiago Santos can put your lights out. But so can Magomed Ankalaev. So I'll look for Ankalaev to kind of take this fight to the ground. 16-1 as a fighter. He's had one kind of bad break, honestly. When was that? That was a while back. Oh, that was against Paul Craig, Triangle. I think he was winning that fight, too. That was in 2018. And since then, he's gone in and beat Parchino, Klidson Abreu, I don't know how to say the next guy's game, Ion Kutlaba, Krylov, and Volkan Ozdemir. So I really do feel like if he wins this fight, he'll get a shot at the title, which I'd like to see because Ankalaev is more than deserving. He's one of the better prospects at 205. Now, should Thiago Santos win, he's not fighting for the title anytime soon. He got destroyed by Glover. I mean, if Yuri wins, we could see it. That would be a crazy fight, right? Co-main event on that is Marlon Moraes versus Song Yadong. Actually, a fun fight. Moraes, he's been knocked out a lot, man. His last 4 of his last 5 fights have been knockouts. He got the split decision win over Aldo, but before that, he lost to Cejudo 3rd round. He kind of, that famous one where he gassed. You got Corey Sandhagen, who wheel kicked his head off. Rob Font, who jabbed his head off. And then Merab Dvalishvili from Georgia kind of just mauled him. So it's been a while, 6 months since he's taken off. So it's kind of good to see him kind of like take some time off after those knockouts. Because those 3 knockouts were, October of 2020, December of 2020. And then he took some time off between that with Merab and still got knocked out. Song Yadong's not really going to be your power puncher per se, even though he's got some good knockouts like over Julio Arce. But a lot of his fights, against Casey Kenny, split decision. Kyler Phillips was a loss decision. Marlon Vera, he got the win, but it was decision. Cody Stamann, majority draw. Alejandro Perez, he beat with a right cross. So if I'm Yadong, I'm taking Marlon Moraes deep into this fight, and I'm trying to get him tired to see if I can get me another knockout and a win over a title contender because Marlon Moraes did fight for the title. If I'm Marlon Moraes, I'm doing everything I can to conserve energy, and if I lose this fight, I'm probably cut from the UFC, which really sucks because Marlon Moraes needs to move up to 145. That's his true weight class. The guy is just ripped, and he'd do well at 145. I think he'd solve a lot of his gas tank problems, actually, because I do feel like he's cutting a little bit too much weight. So what else is on this card? Alex Sakaris versus Sadiq Youssef is fun stuff. You got Khalil Roundtree back, which I don't know why everybody's so hype on him, but they are. Khalil Roundtree and Carl Robertson. So, wow, 9-4, 9-5. 9-5 for Khalil. Carl Robertson's 9-4. That's a winnable fight for Khalil. He needs another good win because after the Johnny, he beat Eric Anders, which was shellacking. Got destroyed by Kutlaba. Parancio beat him, and then he beat Modestas Bukauskas with that side kick to the knee that kind of blew Bukauskas' knee out. Fight I'm looking forward on this card, though, is Drew Dober and Terrence McKinney. We know Dober as the Muay Thai phenom and Terrence McKinney as the guy who does not like to fight a long time. Terrence McKinney's first fight was in the UFC was Matt Frivola, knocked him out in 7 seconds. Beautiful left cross, ground and pound, it was over. His last fight was not long ago. It was on the 26th of February, Ferris Ziem. No real damage right here. His first exchange, he threw a kick and had to kind of go around, scramble because he fell. Ends up getting the rear naked choke kind of from the side. It was interesting. Drew Dober, though, has got really good hands, and he can cause problems for Terrence McKinney. He's fought a really high level of fighters recently. He's fought Brad Riddell and Islam Makhachev his last fight, and Alexander Hernandez. Fought Nasrat Haqparast. He's got a loss to Benil Dariush, of course. This is a really big step up for Terrence McKinney. But should Terrence go out there and get this win, the risk might be worth it. Short-term fight where he's like, I'm kind of a new guy and all this stuff. That's awesome. But, at the same time, it's not the same when you're going out there to fight short notice. So you can kind of got a built-in excuse, which kind of sucks. He was supposed to fight Ricky Glenn, though, and that would have been a really, really fun fight. So look out for that one. That's going to be a fun fight. If you haven't watched Terrence McKinney fight, you can go watch all his fights in under 5 minutes, minus the search time. He's probably with the search time with that 7-second knockout. Another one, Bruno Silva versus Alex Pereira, the kickboxer. That's the last one, or the first one on the main card. Bruno Silva is a striker. just made his UFC debut in 21 against Wellington Tournament. Hadn't fought since 2018, but he does have a win against Artem Frolov. So he's got a fight with Alexander Shlemenko in M1, who's a good fighter. So this guy's actually pretty good. This will be interesting because Alex Pereira is obviously the guy who knocked out Israel Adesanya. That's what we see every time he fights, the knockout. His first fight versus Andreas at UFC 268, not that great. He got wrestled to death in the first round. He managed to get up once, if my memory is correct, which sometimes it's not. But he gets up and he just gets taken down again. He spent the whole round on his back. It's pretty ugly. So he comes out in the second round, and I'm like, he's going to set up the flying knee. Watch. And sure enough, the first shot that Andreas shoots, boom, flying knee, knockout. He's got power in his hands, though. So Pereira's fun, and if he can get a win here, Bruno,